It starts with a familiar frustration. Someone still uses an iPhone 13 mini because every newer phone feels too large to handle comfortably. As leaks surface about Apple's 2026 plans, that hesitation suddenly looks justified. What's coming is not another oversized lab, but a calculated return to compact phones at a moment when buyers are actively waiting for one. As 2025 closes, most attention stays locked on the flagship cycle. This time the conversation shifts forward. Analysts and supply chain reports keep pointing to early 2026. The name attached to those reports is iPhone 17e, a budget-focused model that quietly reopens a door to a mini-style form factor. Apple appears ready to fill its entry-level slot with something smaller, cheaper, and far more intentional than before. This marks a strategic correction. Previous mini models failed because they were priced like flagships. Folding a compact phone into a lower-cost lineup removes that barrier. Apple is no longer testing whether people want small phones. It is acting on the assumption that they do, as long as the price makes sense. Design leaks clarify the positioning. This model sits below the main iPhone 17, which launched in 2025 with a larger 6.3-inch display. The 17e pulls things back to a more manageable size, likely around the 6.1-inch class or slightly smaller. Thinner bezels stretch the screen edge to edge, keeping the device modern without increasing physical dimensions. Visual space matters more on a small phone, which is why the notch disappearing is significant. Reports point to dynamic island carrying over, giving users more usable display area. Materials stay familiar, but practical. Aluminum framing and glass return, while limited color options reduce complexity and cost. The phone feels refined without pretending to be premium. The display follows the same philosophy. A Super Retina XDR OLED panel delivers strong contrast and brightness, but the refresh rate stays at 60 Hz. Apple keeps promotion exclusive to higher-end models to protect the lineup. For everyday use, the experience remains sharp and reliable, even if it lacks ultra-smooth scrolling. Performance is where expectations shift. Budget no longer signals compromise. The iPhone 17 lineup introduced the A19 chip, built on a 3-nanometer process with 6-core CPU and 5-core GPU. Leaks suggest the 17 uses the same silicon. That choice directly impacts longevity, ensuring the phone handles demanding apps and future updates without slowing down. This decision is driven by software direction. On-device AI is no longer optional. Apple Intelligence features require real processing headroom. Pairing the A19 with an expected jump to 8 GB of RAM ensures the device remains responsive years into ownership. Storage options scale sensibly, supporting users who rely on photos, video, and offline apps. Connectivity upgrades reinforce that future focus. Reports point to Apple's in-house modem, improving efficiency and integration. Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 6, and USB-C keep the device aligned with modern standards. Even at a lower price, it avoids feeling like last year's hardware. The camera setup stays intentionally simple. A single high-resolution rear sensor around 48 megapixels handles most situations to computational photography. The result is clean photos and consistent 4K video at 60 frames per second without complexity. The front camera remains dependable, prioritizing clarity for calls and social media. Battery life has always limited small phones, but leaks suggest Apple addresses this directly. Efficiency gains from the A19 chip, combined with a larger-than-expected battery for size, wired fast charging and MagSafe return, delivering all-day use without forcing size compromises. Timing reinforces the strategy. Trial production reportedly starts ahead of the main cycle, pointing to an early launch. Several sources suggest February 2026, matching Apple's pattern of introducing affordable variants after flagship releases. This model complements the iPhone 17 lineup, rather than replacing it. Price is where the decision becomes clear. A starting point around $599 positions the phone as accessible without undercutting the rest of the range. Higher storage tiers climb predictably. Carrier incentives and trade-ins lower effective costs, expanding its appeal. Taken together, the picture resolves. The iPhone 17 is not a nostalgic throwback. It is a modern device designed for users who want power without size. By pairing flagship-level silicon with a compact form and controlled pricing, Apple reframes the entry-level iPhone. Users who demand high refresh rates and multiple cameras still have pro options. Everyone else gains a balanced alternative that fits one hand and lasts for years. If the leaks hold, this phone turns waiting into a smart decision, not a compromise. After years of phones growing larger by default, Apple's 2026 plan signals a reset. Small phones return, not as experiments, but as deliberate answers to how people actually use their devices. A commuter pulls it from a pocket without juggling coffee or keys. One-handed typing feels natural again. Reaching the top corner no longer requires shifting grip or risking a drop. These are small moments, but they add up over years of use, and Apple appears to be betting that comfort is finally worth prioritizing again. This also changes how people upgrade. Many users skip recent generations not because performance lagged, but because size kept growing. Phones became powerful enough years ago. What kept people holding back was ergonomics. A compact option with modern internals removes that friction. It turns delayed upgrades into easy decisions. There is also a quiet demographic shift at work. Younger users entering the ecosystem do not necessarily want the biggest screen possible. They want something personal, manageable, and durable. Parents buying first phone for kids want power without fragility or excess. A smaller body with flagship-level efficiency fits both groups cleanly. Apple's supply chain behavior supports this direction. Reports suggest Apple is repurposing display production techniques refined over multiple generations. Thinner bezels and efficient OLED sourcing allow a smaller device to feel current without inflating costs. This is optimization rather than experimentation, which signals confidence rather than risk. The use of surplus display technology is also strategic. Panels originally designed for previous flagship models still meet modern standards. By redeploying them, Apple controls margins while delivering quality users recognize immediately. Brightness, color accuracy, and durability remain intact. Even if refresh rate stays conservative, that conservative choice extends beyond the screen. Apple appears disciplined about segmentation. Features are not removed arbitrarily. They are withheld to maintain clarity in the lineup. Pro models still justify their price due to advanced displays and camera systems. The 17 focuses on balance rather than excess. This balance becomes more important as software grows heavier. Operating systems now assume multi-year ownership. Apps expect memory headroom. AI features demand sustained processing rather than bursts. Using the same A19 chip across tiers simplifies Apple's development pipeline and reduces fragmentation. From a developer standpoint, this matters. Building apps for a consistent performance baseline reduces edge cases. When a budget device runs the same core silicon as flagships, developers can focus on experience rather than limitations. That translates into smoother apps for everyone. The neural engine plays a critical role here. Tasks like image classification, language processing, and on-device recommendations become standard features rather than premium perks. The phone remains responsive even as workloads grow more complex over time. This is future-proofing disguised as affordability. Thermal behavior also improves in smaller devices when efficiency rises. A compact phone with a modern chip can sustain performance longer than older, less efficient designs. That means fewer slowdowns during navigation, gaming, or video capture. Heat becomes manageable rather than intrusive. Gaming benefits quietly as well. While this is not marketed as a gaming phone, the same GPU architecture as the flagship models allows casual games and even demanding titles to run smoothly. Sessions feel consistent rather than throttled. Battery drain stays predictable instead of alarming. Photography sees similar gains. Computational techniques rely on fast processing more than additional lenses. Night modes, HDR stacking, and real-time video stabilization all benefit from raw compute power. A single sensor paired with modern silicon produces results that rival multi-camera setups from just a few years ago. Video recording becomes especially practical. Stable 4K at 60 frames per second fits social media workflows without storage or editing complexity. For many users, this replaces the need for secondary cameras entirely. The phone becomes a default capture device again. Battery performance ties these experiences together. A compact device that lasts all day changes behavior. Users stop carrying power banks. Anxiety fades. The phone feels dependable rather than restrictive. Efficiency becomes the silent feature that defines satisfaction. Charging behavior reinforces this. MagSafe returning means convenience stays intact. Drop the phone on a charger and walk away. No cable hunting. No orientation guessing. These conveniences matter more when a device is used constantly rather than occasionally. The in-house modem plays a long game as well. Efficiency gains extend battery life beyond what specs alone suggest. Integration improves reliability. Drop connections and inconsistent handoffs become less common. These improvements rarely headline announcements, but they shape long-term trust. When you zoom out, the release timing becomes even more intentional. Launching in early 2026 avoids competing with flagship hype. It gives a device its own narrative. It becomes a phone people buy after thinking, waiting, and deciding deliberately. This timing also aligns with upgrade cycles. Many iPhone 12 and 13 users approach 5 years of ownership. Batteries degrade. Software support narrows. A compact, modern replacement arrives exactly when patience was thin. Pricing reinforces that emotional timing. $600 feels reachable without feeling disposable. It signals value without signaling compromise. Users feel comfortable keeping it for years rather than planning early replacements.